Well, good morning to you, and thank you for joining me today as we come back on Monday to spend some time in the truth. We are in the book of Genesis, going through the narrative in Genesis. We're today moving into chapter 49, the blessing that Jacob has pronounced on Joseph's sons, adopted by Jacob to be part of the 12 tribes of Israel. Ephraim and Manasseh. It's interesting to me as I look at it that God caused Jacob to bless Ephraim and Manasseh before he begins the process now of blessing the other 10 sons. I'm not sure. We know that the blessing on Ephraim was significant, and the blessing on Manasseh was not far away from it. And now we come to chapter 49, where God will pronounce through Jacob the blessing on his other 10 sons, and 11 sons, Levi being one of them. And so it's interesting to see how that develops going forward. And so the prophecy or the blessings that are pronounced are in essence a prophecy from Jacob, because it reveals what will be happening in the nation of Israel in the leadership of his sons as they move forward. And that's even looking into the distant future as they come into the promised land and begin to receive the inheritance that God's given to them. And so we see that as we look at Genesis 49:1. Genesis 49:1 says, "Then Jacob called his sons and said, 'Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you what will happen to you in the days to come.'" So there is a picture of prophecy here. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen to you in the days to come. So the blessing has a view toward the future and what that will look like for his sons as they look toward the Exodus, really, and on into the inheritance that's in the promised land for them. And so we're going to look at these today. We're going to start looking at them today. I'm only going to get through Reuben today. We won't get into anybody else. We'll get into that tomorrow. But he calls his sons together. Verse 2 says, "Assemble and listen, O sons of Jacob. Listen to Israel, your father." The other aspect of this that I think is interesting to me, looking at it today, is that all of the sons are present as each one of these blessings or statements by Jacob concerning his sons and their futures is presented. It's not a private meeting. I'm pretty sure, based on what I see in the narrative, that the meeting with Joseph and Ephraim and Manasseh was private. It was just the three of them together with Jacob. But now the rest of his sons, the other 11, are gathered together in one instance to receive the blessing, one right after another, as he goes down through the line. Which, as I look now at Reuben, is a potentially embarrassing and even revealing situation. What will be revealed in Reuben's blessing or statement about what's going to happen in his days to come is something that the rest of his brothers may not have known. Maybe some did, maybe some didn't. But the truth is going to be revealed here in Reuben's case. And so verse 3 says, "Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the firstfruits of my strength, preeminent in dignity and preeminent in power." So I personally believe that as Jacob makes this statement, he's talking about the position that the first son should have had. That, as we saw with Joseph, and his desire for the right hand to be on Manasseh, who was the older son, and the left hand to be on Ephraim. Well, the right hand was that picture of favor, and the favor should have been shown toward the older son. And so here, as Jacob introduces his statement about Reuben, he introduces it in the sense that you are this. Your position should be yours because of the fact that you're the firstborn. You're my firstborn son. You are my might and the first fruits of my strength. So you are in a place where you should have that greater blessing, the greater position, the idea of preeminence and dignity and power. In the family, the firstborn should have been the strongest of them. But in verse 4, the table turns. As Jacob says, you're unstable as water. And the idea of unstable as water is the turbulence that's evident in the life of Reuben. And that evidence of that turbulence comes as we look then at the rest of the verse. But he's unstable as water. So he's ebbing and flowing, and there's no consistency. There's no decisiveness. There's just this picture of wavering back and forth, unstable, turbulent, as water is. And so because you are that, because that's your character, it's what you present, the preeminence isn't going to be yours. What should be yours as the firstborn won't be yours. And the reason why is given to us now at the end of verse 4. Because, here's the reason, you went up to your father's bed, then you defiled it. He went up to my couch. And so we know, if we look back at Genesis 35, I think it's verse 22, if I remember correctly, Reuben committed adultery with Jacob's concubine named Bilhah. Therefore, the picture of defiling my couch or defiling my bed is this idea of adultery. This is characteristic of you. And because of it, he suffers loss. The blessing that should have been his, in essence, in my mind, as I look at the narrative, actually goes to Ephraim. Because Ephraim was the first one who was blessed with the favor of Jacob. And his blessing is fantastic. You're going to multiply. You're going to be a great leader. These things are going to be true about you. And Manasseh, sort of like that, the same way, at a lesser level, but the same basic blessing was pronounced on Manasseh. And now we come to Reuben, the actual firstborn, and Jacob says, this preeminence that should have been yours because you're the firstborn, you don't get. And the reason why you don't get it is because of your sin. It's because of the choices that you've made in your life. You've shown your instability in your activities. And because of that, what you should have inherited isn't going to be yours. And so it's interesting if we look at Judges to see the future of the tribe of Reuben. We find that in Judges, they are very much an unstable tribe, indecisive, unable to make a good, solid, confident decision as they're going into the land and fulfill the will of God there. They really struggle. And so the prophecy that's given here, this is what your days in the future look like, is what Jacob said. And they turn out to be exactly that. Reuben's tribe is not one of leadership, but it's one that struggles to be a leader. And so the inheritance, the blessing that is received here is very much directly related in Reuben's case to the sinful struggle in his life, the sinful desires that he was subject to and that he pursued and followed, brought about the removal in many ways of what should have been the blessing that he should have received had he been a more faithful and purposeful son, accomplishing God's work. And so the first son, the first real son of Jacob, receives what Jacob says will be his future. The future will be one where you're not going to have the stance that you should have had as my firstborn, because you're unstable as water. There's no consistency in you, and you've committed this sin, and this sin is going to be something that your followers, your descendants will struggle with going forward, and therefore you're going to have struggles in the future as a tribe. And so it's interesting to see, and I always, as I'm looking at it, I keep thinking back to why did God bring Jacob to the place where he brought the blessing to Ephraim and Manasseh before. It almost seems as though Joseph was the 11th son of Jacob. And so he should be, as we look at this list, he should have been in this list in number 11. But instead, his boys who are adopted by Jacob get that first blessing. Ultimately, Ephraim receiving the greater of the two. Well, that's our time in the truth for today as we considered Reuben. And tomorrow we'll come back and look at the next two, Simeon and Levi. And we'll see what Jacob has to say about them. We'll probably get through maybe one or two more tomorrow as we take some time in the truth. But we'll look forward to seeing you then. Have a great day in the Lord and serve him, walk with him, please him. Nothing better you and I can do. So I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a great day in the Lord.